Hello and welcome. You're viewing the Citizens Journalist podcast, Mesa County Compass, that brings you the news that you can use from a different point of view. I'm Ruth.
I'm Lisa.
And together we are Mesa County Compass. Our goal is to create an informed, current, active citizenry armed with the facts. We will be covering what's new to you, what it means to you, what you can do about it, and provide you access to the decision makers when we can. Good morning. Welcome to Mesa County Compass. This morning we're having Lew Webb come and do an update on his campaign for Congressional District number 3. Welcome, Lew. And
well, how you doing, Ruth?
Yeah.
Lisa?
Countdown to primary.
Oh my gosh, it's Wednesday, and next Tuesday is the primary, the 25th of June. So it is, it's coming down to it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, I thought I'd start with one, how are you dealing with the campaign? And two, why do you think that you're a better candidate for this position than your opponents? Because you've got quite a few on the ticket. Why are you the best choice?
Okay, what was the first part of that question, though?
How are you doing?
Oh, that's kind of what I thought it was. I want to make sure.
On the campaign.
Well, I am. I'm an old athlete, so I always learn leave it all on the field, and don't finish a game with anything left in the tank. And I'm not. I am. For example, yesterday I spoke at the La Plata County Republican Women's Luncheon. Then I went straight from there and did a quick 30-second radio commercial. And then I left and drove over Wolf Creek to Alamosa and spoke to their GOP Central Committee meeting last night. Drove home last night from Alamosa, got home about midnight, and then left this morning at 7 a.m. to drive up to Grand Junction, where I am now, and then we'll do this podcast, and then tonight I have a meet and greet here in Grand Junction, and then tomorrow I believe I'm going to Eagle County to their GOP Central Committee meeting tomorrow night, and then I will come back down through Montrose and do the Republican Women's Luncheon on Friday, and then home. Saturday I have an event in Pagosa Springs. Sunday's my birthday.
Wow! So are we taking it off, or are we going to be campaigning Sunday too?
We'll do what we need to do. Depends on what is available to do on Sunday. And no plans at this point for Monday. And then the primary is Tuesday. So we'll see. But the point is, I'm going 400 miles an hour with my hair on fire, 9 days a week, 28 hours a day,
right.
And
right.
But that's the job right now. And on Tuesday, we will find out whether I'm going on vacation or it's going to get twice as crazy.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah.
We'll see. But I'm doing good. Getting to talk to so many different people in so many different parts of the state is very energizing to me. There's a lot of different views and questions and ideas and thoughts, and so that's been very energizing. A lot of windshield time, of course. I've got over 16,000 miles on my truck in the last 3.5 months.
Wow.
And but it's a huge district.
It
So
is.
and that's not going to stop. When we go to DC, it still means that I'm going to have to get around to the district and go to the town halls and the meetings and keep the pulse of what the people want. Because at the end of the day, my job will be to represent the people of Congressional District 3, and so I'm going to have to be able to connect with them so I know what they want.
So what have you found so far that they want? I'll come back to that other question, but
Right.
what have you found as you've been going around?
The primary issues with people seem to be this non-existent border to our south, but just so people know, it's not just our southern border that is an issue. Canadian border, and also we have water borders. I mean, in Florida in particular, in the Gulf, and so we have to be vigilant on all of the borders, and people are concerned about our borders. Concerned, of course, about the cost of living, and in my opinion, our economy is being destroyed intentionally by our government. I'll talk a little about that later. They're interested in the fact that we have $35 trillion in debt. They're interested in our school system, teaching our kids things that they should never be exposed to as children. So, there's a lot. Second Amendment is something big, particularly in rural Colorado where we are. That's a huge issue. So just those kinds of things that people are concerned about. Also, a big issue in the rural parts of the district, which is 99% of it, not quite, but a lot, is the government land grabs and water grabs. Like this Dolores Monument thing is a huge issue.
Right.
It's just, it's so wrong. Why does the federal government feel like they have to control everything? That is insanity. This is our country, not 535 people in Washington and a president and a vice president, and it's crazy. But so that's a big issue, particularly for ranchers and farmers.
Well, especially in Nucla.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Part
Big
of
issue
it.
in Nucla.
Yeah.
Big time. I was there, I want to say 3 weeks or a month ago for a debate, and that's the heart, like you say, that's the heart of that monument issue. So we'll see.
National security and all sorts of stuff with the minerals they have.
Yes.
So, and one more thing before we go back to how you're better. Again, tell us how you are better than the other candidates, or why you should be elected, as opposed to, because there's 5 on that roster.
5 others
besides you.
Well, I think part of what makes me, there's several reasons.
Okay.
One of the reasons is my age as compared to a couple of the other candidates and what that brings. There are a couple of candidates that have young families, and I don't think that is a good idea, sending people with young families at home. One of them has 4 kids, young kids. One of them has 5, and one of those kids is still in diapers. And so to me, the idea of sending people for a couple hundred days plus a year to Washington, D.C. that have young families at home is a recipe for disaster. I look no further than our current Congresswoman. That didn't work out all that well for her. She's now divorced, and I've seen some things about her kids, running afoul of things, and that is not on them, that is on us. And part of that is because our founders gave us 25 years old for a representative, 30 years old for a senator, and 35 for a president. But that was back when the life expectancy of a male in the United States was 56. At 25 and 30, you were almost middle-aged.
Right.
And so, at 25 back then, you'd been married for 12 years and had 3 kids. Right. So I think that's something that needs to be addressed now. Our life expectancy of a male, anyway, in the United States is 77. So I think those ages need to be adjusted a little bit. Think how mature a 25-year-old was in the late 1700s or during the 1800s or the early 1900s, and now a 25-year-old just is not as mature.
Right.
And so anyway, I think the fact that I have a raised family or kids have kids of their own. Another thing is, and you have to take this as I really mean it. It's not something I really want to do, and I'm compelled to do this because we have 7 grandkids that if something doesn't change in this country, it's not going to work out good for them.
That's right.
And so I think just the fact that I haven't run for office after office to be elected to a political position like some of the other guys, I think that is part of what makes me a better option. I have a history, a business history of being a problem solver and working with 1,100 employees and tens of thousands of customers and manufacturers and vendors, and keeping that all together so that everybody remains satisfied and that our business was profitable. So that's part of it. I see this a little bit differently than I think the other 5 guys do. I see that we have myriad issues. We've got borders that are non-existent. We have $35 trillion in debt. We have inflation out of control. Cost of living is insane. I mean, people go to the grocery store these days and
Fact.
We've got these issues with Second Amendment and our government wanting to take firearms from us, and we've got veterans sleeping in the street and illegal immigrants getting free health care, and we've got this education system that's teaching our kids insanity instead of educating them. We just have issue after issue after issue after issue. But guys, those issues are hugely important, but they are symptoms of an overarching disease. And let's face it, you can treat the symptoms of a disease and maybe feel better for a while and maybe be able to do more for a while. But if you do not cure the disease, it eventually kills you.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
The disease in America is corruption. Our government is corrupt, and the bureaucracies that surround it are corrupt.
Yeah.
And until we cure the disease, the symptoms will never go away. Sun Tzu's Art of War. Divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm.
Think of how our government and the propaganda arm of our government, the media, keep we the people divided in every way they can.
Right.
Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent, unaffiliated, white, brown, black, yellow, red, Christian, Jew, Hindu, Buddhist, atheist, straight, gay, transgender. All of these things are divisive.
Mm-hmm.
They keep us focused on each other instead of focused on the problem, and the problem is our government. That's the problem. That's the disease, folks. Until we cure the disease, until we get honesty and truthfulness, transparency, honor back into our government, none of these issues will ever go away, because that's how they keep us focused on that stuff instead of on the government. So I'm sorry. Because I see that everybody else is talking about the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm the right guy because I recognize the disease.
Mm-hmm.
Something else that I think makes me the right guy for this job is that I understand that our government is intentionally destroying our country. And people go, what? Well, why? Well, here's how. First, we don't access our own natural resources and pay other countries exorbitantly, making them rich and giving us $4 gas and $5 diesel. How does that work out at the grocery store and at Walmart and at the hardware store or any place you buy anything?
Mm-hmm.
Everything has to be trucked
Mm-hmm.
burning diesel at this exorbitant rate.
Now we can do electric trucks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
That costs less.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's part of it. Another thing people don't realize is if you take a napkin, how much of the cost of that napkin, once it gets to the grocery store where you buy it, are government permits and fees, attorney fees, and insurance costs. Think of that. The logger, that company has to jump through all the hoops to get the permits and fees and everything from the government to log where they log. Then they have to carry all the insurances to have workers' comp and liability insurance and blah, blah, blah for the logging operation. All of the contracts they did have to be done by attorneys, and all this legalese and crazy stuff, all of those costs go into the cost of that napkin.
True.
Guys, that's just the logging operation. Now the trucker has all of the same costs, government fees, insurance costs, and attorney's costs for the trucking company to get those logs to the mill. The mill has all of those same costs. Permits and fees from the government, insurance for the mill, and all the attorney's fees for the contract for everything that has to do with the mill. Then you go back to another trucker to truck from the mill to the manufacturing plant for the napkins. All the same fees and costs that they have. And then the plastic company for the wrapping has all of those same costs. Then the trucking to Walmart or the grocery store, and then the grocery store has all the same costs.
Right.
The percentage of the cost of everything we buy that is government fees, attorney fees, and insurance costs is insanity.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
That's
I
part
agree.
of destroying our economy. They're running God out of our culture as fast as they can get rid of God.
Yes.
They're running our family units, the reliance on family. They're getting rid of that as fast as they can. Remember George Orwell's 1984?
Oh, yes.
And they were talking about things like, and in Atlas Shrugged, Ayn Rand's book, getting kids to tell on their parents.
Right.
Right? What do they call it? The memory police or the something like that. The thought police.
Thought police.
And these kids, little girl's pregnant. She's 14. Well, don't tell your mom and dad. Just tell your counselor. Right? All of these things, including the fact that every single illegal immigrant that comes across our border dilutes our national culture. Nobody ever talks about that.
Right.
I understand these things and see these things for what they are. They're the destruction, the intentional destruction of America. But now everybody goes, well, why would our government do that?
Because
That's
they
really
benefit
simple.
from it. Profit.
Well, no, not just
Power.
that. At the end of the day, our government wants to shove socialism down our throats. They have to get us low. They have to get American population down and broke, and so that they can come along and say, okay, everybody's struggling, and hey, We'll step in, we'll feed you, we'll house you, we'll clothe you. And if people are really down, they'll go, oh, it's so hard, I'm struggling so hard. Okay, we'll take it. And that, boom, we get socialism. But here's the big part of it. In a socialist, communist governance model, it is the political class, the ruling class, that have all of the wealth and power and prestige, and their cronies. Why do you think these politicians are on board with this? Because they know that they will be the ruling class. Their kids and grandkids and great-grandkids will be born into that ruling class. Mm-hmm. And that's how those governance models work. So that's why our Congress and our president and our politicians really want this, because it benefits them and their families in the long run, and the rest of us are slaves. And I see that very, very clearly. That's another reason I am not going to Washington, D.C. to address to address the symptoms. I'm going to Washington, D.C. to address the disease. Because America will never be the America that it is supposed to be and that it has been previously if we don't kill the disease. So that's part of why I think I'm the right guy for the job.
I think you've done a remarkable job of thinking that out and bringing it forth to everybody. The one thing that you really got going in your favor, if we can get this out soon enough, is the fact that as of Monday night, there were only 15% that have voted.
Ballots in.
Right.
That's amazing to me, too.
Yeah, because usually there are those that are upfront voters who want to get done, get it over with. Everybody's hanging on to their ballots this time. And it's interesting.
I'm hanging on to my ballot just because this is my one and only shot at doing something like this, and I want to actually go to my polling place and vote this
right
time.
there.
So yes, exactly.
That's exactly what I'm going to do too.
that's funny. I just, for some reason, I feel like I need to do that this time.
I think that's good. Now we're back. You have a meet and greet tonight.
I do.
Do you know?
I think I just got this, so that meet and greet is 6 to 8 p.m. and it is at Mountain Air Roasters on 126 North 7th Street in Grand Junction. And there's going to be food and drinks and coffee.
Hope so.
Yeah. So
That's the last thing I need at 7 o'clock at night, but
Right,
nonetheless.
right.
I think they have decaf.
Yes. Well, that's wonderful. Anything else that you want to share with us? Because this is, you just were stopping through, and we appreciate that, especially since I messed up with the other podcast. But anything that you want to share that we're not asking that is important right as we get down to the line?
Yeah, I think I'd like to share an analogy that I think makes clear, again, what our government has done that is not good for we the people. Okay? I am an avid bow hunter. And so hunting is a big part of my life. And I know that people will put corn out in various states to attract primarily deer and hogs, but just about anything will eat corn. But let's use hogs as an example, wild hogs. So if you have wild hogs in the area and you put corn out because they have amazing noses, they will find it and they will eat it. And then if you put corn out the next day, they'll find it again and they'll come and eat it. And if you continue to put corn out, they will continue to come and eat the corn, and you will eventually be able to basically set your watch by the time that they will come and eat the corn. So you keep doing this and you keep feeding every day, and the hogs keep coming, and then you build a little section of fence, okay, a ways over from where the corn is. And a couple of weeks later, you build another little section of fence, and a couple of weeks later, same thing, and keep going. And eventually, you've built a huge enclosure around where you put the corn, but you leave a gate open. The hogs come through the gate and back and forth and eat the corn and leave, and then they start hanging out, inside the enclosure if there's some shade and places for them to do so. But at some point, when all the hogs are in the enclosure, you close the gate. Now all the hogs are trapped, okay? But you keep feeding them the corn. Every day they get the corn. Piglets get born. Old ones die. More piglets get born. More old ones die. Continue to feed the corn. Eventually, there are no pigs that were in the original group of pigs that foraged in the wild but got used to the corn. Now, every pig in the enclosure was born in the enclosure and is being used to being fed corn. So then eventually you can take the fence down and the pigs will stay because they no longer know how to go out into the woods and forage for themselves. They're kept pets is what they have become.
Exactly.
Now, American citizens, our government for many, many years has taken we the people's money, taxes, redistributed it in welfare, unemployment, grants, subsidies, and in essence has generated generations of kept pets of our citizens. There are people that don't know, it's not necessarily all their fault. I mean, some of them are just lazy, but some of them have never known anything different.
Right.
They have always been fed welfare and subsidy. Grandma and grandpa, then mom and dad, or basically probably mom in most cases. Dads, don't get me started on the single mom thing. That's a whole another minority that we have as single moms. And kids that have been generational welfare. They don't know how to go out and work and fend for themselves and be self-reliant. Folks, what made America great, the most powerful, the most wealthy, the most philanthropic nation that ever existed, was our work ethic.
Right.
Was the fact that we were self-reliant. Our government didn't design this to take from people and give to other people. That's not how this was designed. People worked and fended for themselves. And if somebody had a problem, the church and the community gathered together and took care of them.
Right.
What happened to that? Our government decided we can take from Lisa and Ruth and Lou, and we can give it to Bob and Sally and Jeff, and they will become dependent upon the government. And that is how our government has trapped so many of our citizens into dependence and not knowing how to be self-reliant. Folks, that has to stop.
Can we reverse it at this point?
I'm going to try. Ruth, that's one of the things. I've never been to Congress. I don't know exactly how it works. The first thing I have to do is get there and learn the job. Right. And learn what a freshman congressman from rural Colorado can do, and then start to problem solve. You're not going to buy me. You're not going to corrupt me. I've made all of those mistakes. I mean, those stupid mistakes that you could be, corrupted for, and learned from them. That's called wisdom, I think, right? Learn from mistakes. Put your finger on the hot stove.
Get burned.
You
Don't touch
gotta learn
again.
not to do that again.
Right.
And I've done all of them. So, but yeah, I think it can be reversed, and here is how it's reversed. Folks, you're not going to get any more welfare checks. You're going to get hungry. People will not just lay down in the street and starve. They will get hungry enough to go get a job and fend for themselves. Some caveats to this. In my opinion, we need to start tariffing the crap out of China and Mexico and Taiwan so that we bring our manufacturing, our business back to America, because we're going to need a lot more jobs.
Yes, we are.
Because these people are going to have to fend for themselves. We're going, also a caveat, for someone who cannot physically or mentally fend for themselves, as an advanced society, it is incumbent upon us to take care of those people. That's a whole different thing than just lazy. And the other thing that goes along with this is there will be a portion of the population that will say, I'm not going to go get a job. I am going to rob people. I'm going to steal.
That was just running through my mind.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so the way that works is our law enforcement has to start enforcing our laws. If you break the law, you go to jail.
Amazing concept.
Amazing concept. But here's something about prison. There are people that go to prison now because it's nicer than living outside. They have 3 square meals. They got a place to sleep. They've got internet. They've got right. Here's how prison has to look. 23 hours a day, you sit in a cell. There's no TV. There's no internet. There's no movie night. You sit there. You get healthy food. There's no seasoning, but the food is healthy. You get water, coffee, and milk to drink. You get an hour a day to go outside and exercise. It's an open grass place to exercise. There's no weight sets, so you come out super crook. There's no basketball courts. There's no softball diamonds. You can do sit-ups, push-ups, jumping jacks. You can run, or you can just sit on your butt. Whatever you want to do. But the point is, we can have shorter sentences. It's going to cost we the people less. And the rehabilitation occurs because prison sucks so bad, you don't ever want to go back. That's rehabilitation. It is not cruel and unusual. You have a warm, safe place to sleep. You get healthy food. But that's it. Prison is no fun.
It's not supposed to be.
It's not supposed to be.
Right.
So to me, those are the parts of this. We got to get our jobs back. We have to have law enforcement that when you break the law, you pay for it. And we have to stop feeding the corn to our society so that they will become self-reliant again. Our government doesn't want that. Our government wants we the people to rely on them. They're the problem, not the solution.
Very good. Well, we'll see in 8 days.
6 days.
6 days.
6 days. Yeah. Oh, it's coming fast.
Yeah.
It's Wednesday.
It's
Next
Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. So I'm going to vote early.
There you go.
Just so I don't miss the
understand.
date.
I understand. There you
Because
go.
I've always been the late Lisa Fry, so I don't want to be that for voting. You've been listening to Mesa County Compass. These are the facts as we see them, the truth as we know it. You decide and make sure to vote.
Can I say just
yes,
from?
of
I'm
course.
sorry.
No.
I just wanted to say thank you to both of you, because this is an opportunity to be heard, and because I don't necessarily have traditional view of this. I have a little bit different view than the other guys running for this office, and so thank you for the opportunity to share it with folks.
Well, we appreciate you
Thank
trusting
you for,
us with your
thank you
information.
for being on again.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure, for sure.